Thanks for staying up late with us on this day after Election Day. Results are still rolling in right now, so let's take a look. We just learned moments ago that the state of Minnesota has been called for Kamala Harris. You can see she won here with 52% of the vote against Donald Trump's 46%. But as we know, Donald Trump has been declared the winner of the presidential election. We're going to head to Palm Beach, Florida right now, take a live look inside the Trump-Vance headquarters at the Palm Beach Convention Center, where Donald Trump spoke moments ago, giving his victory speech to his supporters gathered there in Florida. Heidi Wigdahl has been at the GOP headquarters here in Minnesota throughout the night and has their reaction.
I'm Heidi Wigdahl at the Minnesota GOP election night watch party, where Republicans have been celebrating all night. There were cheers, hugs, and screaming for Donald Trump here. Meanwhile, looking at the Minnesota House, Republicans are still confident they can break up the DFL trifecta. They need to flip 4 seats to win control. They celebrated a win in District 18A, flipping the seat in the North Mankato area. Republican Erica Schwartz beat DFL incumbent Jeff Brand by nearly 800 votes. There are a couple other seats that they're seeing going their way as well, including one up in the Iron Range and another down in Winona. On the congressional side, Republican incumbents were successful in keeping their seats. Michelle Fischbach celebrated a win in District 7 with 70% of the vote, and all the other Republican incumbents won by more than 60% of the vote in their races. However, Republicans were not able to win some key races in the U.S. House that they were hopeful about. That includes in District 2, where Angie Craig beat challenger Joe Tayrab, and in District 3, where DFLer Kelly Morrison was successful against Tad Jude.
No, I called Kelly Morrison and conceded. The voters of the 3rd District have spoken. Wish her well in Congress, and will cooperate any way I can.
It sounded like that seemed to be the tone for both of you guys with this race, is that you really were kind of talking about willing to work across the aisle and kind of have that support.
Well, I think the district is a very independent district and a purple district in many ways, and we need to make Washington work. You know, we need to make it work better. We need to get the border to work. We need to get the economy to work better. I think we can do that.
The special election for the one Minnesota State Senate seat up for grabs went to the DFL, meaning they'll keep control of the Senate. And expect a recount in 14B St. Cloud. The GOP party was celebrating, thinking Sue Eck had beat DFL incumbent Dan Wolgamott and that they had flipped a seat. They were told with 100% of the vote in that Eck had won by just 4 votes. However, when results ended, Wolgamott won by 28 votes. Now, I spoke to Minnesota GOP Chair David Hann, and he said they're trying to figure out what exactly happened, but it appears it was absentee ballots that came in and had not been counted yet, so expect to hear more on that in the coming days. Back to you.
Well, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz both in D.C., where Harris is expected to speak tomorrow. Their election night headquarters were at Howard University, Harris's alma mater, and that's where Lauren Lemanchek has been all night.
There is no one left here at Howard University, Kamala Harris headquarters, except for some reporters doing live shots, breaking down gear at this point. Around 12:30 a.m. Eastern, Harris's campaign co-chair came out and told the crowd who were gathered that she would not be addressing them tonight. We also heard then that Governor Walz would also not be coming here tonight. And at that point, the crowd which had gathered, which had really stuck through even the bad news that was coming in tonight, they quickly left this area. Now, they were told that Harris will be back here tomorrow. We don't know what time yet, but she's going to address not only her supporters, but also the nation. When he spoke, the co-chair of her campaign was saying there are still votes left to be counted, states left to be called. But by that point, it was a pretty dour mood here at Howard University. Her supporters were barely watching the big screen. They had turned the volume down and were just playing loud music because no one really wanted to hear the results that were coming in, which were not what the campaign expected and certainly not what they were hoping for. And as the blue wall has sort of crumbled over the last hours, that has become even more clear for Vice President Harris and Tim Walz. Now, they had really staked it all on Pennsylvania. They thought they could compete in all the swing states, but for them, Pennsylvania was the biggest win, and they spent a ton of time there. Vice President Harris did 4 rallies there on Monday. Governor Walz did his last hit there, his last rally there, or a campaign event, I should say, just this morning, trying to rally supporters in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The campaign told me that over the weekend alone, they knocked on more than 100,000 doors in that state. In fact, they have been talking for days now, as I've been on campaign calls, about their ground game, about how they were turning out voters, how many calls they'd made, how many contacts that they'd made. And they were saying that they had this huge advantage in that area over former President Trump. But in the end, it does not appear that that mattered. Again, she has not conceded this race yet. She is expected to be back here tomorrow, but at this point, it would take a miracle, it seems, for her to catch up on these votes. Here in Washington, D.C. tonight, again, Howard University emptied out. We are expecting her to come back right to this same area tomorrow, although we haven't been given guidance on exactly when that will be. We have been told perhaps late morning, early afternoon, but at this point we don't know for sure. Now, I also want to talk, because the reason we're here tonight is because of Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, who we have been following his candidacy, the governor of our state. And as I heard from his campaign tonight, early on they were saying, he was just excited for tonight. He was incredibly grateful for this opportunity. And then, as the night went on, we stopped hearing really from Walz's people or from the campaign. I think that at this point, they're looking at the numbers, they're processing where there are votes left to come in, and processing what more and more appears to be a really tough night for the Harris campaign. We will be back here tomorrow when she does address her supporters and the nation at Howard University, so we will have more for you then. But at this point, not much more to report from D.C. until more numbers come in and either Harris pulls ahead or concedes. Back to you.
All right, Chris. Well, recently Minnesota finally called, and Harris did win this state.
Yep, 2 in the morning. We got a winner in Minnesota. Trump will be president-elect now, but at least in Minnesota here, these are the results we've been waiting for all night to kind of just see how it shook out here. And what happened is Harris didn't do quite as good as Biden did in Minnesota. 2020, it was 52% Biden, 45% Trump. It is 52% Harris, 46% Trump. And you can see in certain counties where Trump did a little bit better this time around than he did 4 years ago. We're talking about Carver County, which was a 5-point race before. It was about 5 points now. But here in Scott County, you can see Trump did a lot better this time around, getting about 9 points there versus 6 4 years ago. We also talked earlier about this. This is a big story about these smaller counties where Trump did better or flipped the counties. Nicollet County, Trump won this, lost it 4 years ago. Blue Earth County, which is Walz's home county there, Trump lost it 4 years ago, won it this time around. Ramsey and Hennepin, still strong turnout, same thing, but they didn't grow at all. There weren't any expansive votes for Democrats in that area. You'll see a few white spots here in the middle of the map. That's because we've heard from Anoka County over Twitter that they had a large amount of absentee ballots that came in as the polls closed, and they had a hard time getting all those processed. So we're seeing 0% votes counted in that county. Same thing happening in Todd County. We have no votes there yet either. And Clearwater County, we got nothing there. But it is called for Harris. Harris taking Minnesota. Again, we're going to wait to see on Wisconsin and Michigan. But the news is in. Donald Trump is president-elect of the United States. And it is clear now after taking Pennsylvania. Julie, back to you.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a very eventful night. We'll be recapping that throughout the overnight hours, including sharing the candidate speeches that have been coming in. We hope you'll stay with us and then tune in for KARE 11 Sunrise starting at 4:30 a.m. on air and here on KARE 11 Plus.